Hare Krishna, Namaste, chapter 18, which is entitled as Sannyasa Yoga. Sloka 3, part 3. Tyājyaṁ doṣa-vad karma prāhur manīṣiṇaḥ yajña-dāna-tapaḥ-karma tyājyaṁ cāpare. We are going to learn in this session the philosophy of the last type of philosopher. Before we learn what is Krishna's philosophy in the next sloka. Here, the fourth type is pretty close to Krishna's philosophy. Yajña-dāna-tapaḥ-karma tyājyaṁ iti cāpare. Apare means others, other scholars who are able to discriminate what is acceptable and what is to be abandoned, conclude saying that all these karmas not to be given up, it has to be performed. That is why we said earlier that this follows Krishna's view. Krishna also wants us to follow all those things that's mentioned in the Vedas. But one may say, well, in the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, give up all the dharmas. What does that mean? Well, we'll learn when we get to that particular sloka what it means. In the previous session, we learned that all the karmas needs to be given up because the karmas have faults in it. This philosopher who needs to deny or establish his philosophy must deny what has been said by the previous one. Otherwise, he cannot establish his principle. Previous scholars said it has to be given up because it has faults. That means this philosopher that we are going to see now needs to deny that there are no faults in any of those things that's mentioned in the Vedas. Therefore, one should perform all the karmas. Yajña-dāna-tapaḥ-karma tyājyaṁ should not be given up by those who are interested in moksha. By performing these karmas, it leads one towards the path of moksha, liberation. Therefore, when it can provide moksha, it will not contain any dosha, blemish, any faults. Rather, it is good for one. The opponent asks, how do you say animal sacrifice is not fault? Because ashuddham iti chitna shabdhat. It is confirmed in Vedanta Sutram that animal sacrifice mentioned in the Vedas are not going to bring contamination. There is no scope for defects like harm to beings, etc. in works, the karmas mentioned in the scriptures. If a careful, deep analysis is made to understand what means himsa, then it will be clear. Let's see some practical examples. A surgery done to a patient involves a lot of violence in one sense. Taking up the knife, cutting the body, pulling things out, placing something inside, stretching the wound place, inserting needles, applying burning medicines. All this sounds to be quite heavy, violent. But then we pay the doctor to do this when we are sick. If it is a violent act, why do we even pay to the doctor? Why do we even have to have insurance, health insurance? Knowing that doctor are going to be violent with my body, with me. Just a wild imagination. Consider that a person is in the surgical room, in the operation theater, and the doctor is going to open the heart of the patient. And the doctor suddenly remembers something to do with ahimsa. Then he quits and walks away from the operation theatre. When the patient is just going to scream, call the doctor, run behind the doctor, fall at his feet, he would be ready to pay extra money to the doctor so this doctor can cut open the chest of this person. Isn't it interesting to know that knowing the doctor is going to be violent, still the patient voluntarily accepting the act of doctor? So the point is, pain doesn't mean it is himsa all the time. Another example, a woman goes through pains during her delivery, during her pregnancy period, are not considered to be suffering. Rather, the mother is eagerly waiting to see her child. So this, whatever she is going through, is not considered to be a pain or suffering. Otherwise, she wouldn't have accepted that responsibility to conceive a child. She knows this short-term pain gives long-term relief and happiness. Therefore, that temporary short-term pain is not even to be seen as pain, miserable state. With these examples that we saw, we apply the same thing in what has been said in the Vedas. The animals which are said to be sacrificed is not considered to be violent act, harmful to the animals. Rather, they attain the heavenly planet for better life, longer duration, with high quality of lifestyle. There is also another viewpoint which is said it is not really those animals which get sacrificed in the fire. It is a form of an animal which is made of a dough and offered into the fire. This is also confirmed in the scripture by a story of King Uparichara-vasu. Uparichara-vasu is such a great personality because he followed the dharmas truthfully. His chariot never touches the ground. It was always few inches above the ground. That's because of his qualities, character, and being truthful. At one point of time, there was a debate between the Devatas and great rishis. The debate is on a subject matter: is it the real pashu, animal, that needs to be sacrificed in the fire yajna, or should it be pishta pashu, meaning a pashu or animal which is made of a dough that needs to be given in the sacrifice? This king, Uparichara-vasu, was biased towards the Devatas. Therefore, he supported the Devatas' viewpoint, saying that it is the real pashu that needs to be sacrificed in the fire. Immediately after he said this one, the chariot touched the ground, fell to the ground, confirming what he said was not true. Which means, during the sacrifice, it is not the real pashu that needs to be offered, rather it is the pishta pashu, an animal which is made of a flour dough that needs to be offered into the sacrifice. So either way, whether it is a real animal that is getting sacrificed into the fire, there is no harm or violence in that one, as we saw earlier. Or naturally, if it is not the real one, if it is just a model which is made of a dough, then there is no problem at all. At this juncture, it will be interesting to share a story from a Purana to show how the Vedas been misused even by the demons. There was a demon by name Tarakasura. He was killed by Kartikeya, son of Lord Shiva. that Tarakasura had 3 sons, very powerful, and their names were Tarakaksha, Vidyunmali and Kamalaksha, who were well known in the Puranas as Tripurasura. Their faith in the scriptures, Vedas, were so strong, they were perfectly following the karmas that's been mentioned to get more strength. Their austerity increased to obtain boon from Lord Brahma. Finally, Lord Brahma, who was pleased, appeared in front of them and told them to ask for boon. As always, the demons never want to die, so they asked for immortality. Brahma laughingly said, "Even I have to be finished one day. Anyone who is born cannot stay here indefinitely. Therefore, one must go through birth, old age, disease and death. Nobody can escape from the cycle of repeated birth and death. Therefore, do not ask for immortality, ask for something else besides immortality." Then the demon said, "In that case, give each one of us a city which is indestructible, made of metal. Unless and until these 3 cities come together in a line on one particular day, no one will be able to destroy this. And when it comes together on that particular day, the only way we 3 can die is if somebody can destroy all the 3 cities with a single arrow during the time of alignment." Brahma granted the boon, and the 3 cities which were made of metal were also built. These Rakshasas, with their respective cities, traveled to various places, especially where the Devatas were, and fought with them and defeat them. They became overpowered. No one could defeat them. The Devatas, everyone were bewildered, and they took the shelter of Lord Vishnu. The Lord said, "It is because of their strong faith in the Vedas, but in the wrong direction. They deriving strength from it to misuse that. So the first thing need to be done is to destroy their faith in the scriptures. If they are distracted from performing these rituals mentioned in the Vedas, then they will be conquered." After saying this, the Lord created a very unique being who had no hair on his head, was wearing a cloth which was smeared with dust, and was carrying a bag on his shoulder. That personality approached the Lord and asked, "Who am I? What am I supposed to do?" And the Lord said, "You'll be called as Arihant. You shall have many other names as well. I want you to create a deceptive scripture which is contrary to the Vedas. Make sure the text languages are immoral and simple. You will then go to the cities of Tripurasura and preach this philosophy, the philosophy which speaks against the Vedas. When these people get confused and then later convinced by your philosophy, then they will stop following the Vedic rituals, and then that will lead to their death." So this saint-like person came to the cities and started preaching about ahimsa, stating that Vedas are false because it promotes himsa, the violence towards living entities. Therefore, Vedas must be given up. His speech was so very attractive, many of those people started becoming the follower of him. which means they all stopped the karma mentioned in the Vedas, the rituals. On that particular day, when the three cities were aligned, the Devatas approached Lord Shiva to destroy the Tripurasura. And as per the boon that was given by Lord Brahma, they can only be destroyed if the three cities are destroyed by one arrow. When Shiva was ready to release the arrow, Lord Vishnu took his abode on the tip of the missile of the arrow and destroyed the cities and Tripurasura. Arihant, who was created by the Lord to promote a religion against Vedas, along with his disciples, continued the preaching. They were wearing white color cloth, but being soiled due to their constant travel by walk, they also carry a broomstick made of peacock feathers to clean the road ahead as they walk, so they don't step on small insects. That religion is none other than Jainism. And there was another similar reason for the Lord himself to personally take an avatar to promote a religion, meaning to stop people following the Vedas, as some of them were misusing the Vedas. Therefore, the Lord himself incarnated as Buddha, just to bewilder those people who were misusing the Vedas. Now let's connect back to our topic. We are studying type 4 philosopher who says every single karmas that's mentioned in the Vedas needs to be performed. Why? Because they are faultless. As type 3 said, there are faults. Type 4 said, there's no faults. Therefore, all the three karmas, nitya, naimittika, kamya karma, can be performed. We saw with the examples, one, a surgeon, another one, a mother. When the patient goes through surgery, he doesn't criticize the surgeon. When the mother goes through the delivery, she doesn't curse the child. Rather, in both cases, they are happy of what's happening. Therefore, it is not considered himsa. Then the type 3 person opposed, saying, okay, that's about kamya karma. What about nitya karma and naimittika karma? They have faults. The faults is they lead one to attachment and anger. Response to that by type 4 is, well, the candidates who does all these karmas have already given up the results of their action. Hence, they will not be affected by attachment and anger. Attachment and anger comes only when there is some expectation from what they do. When they get it, they attach more. When they don't get it, they get angry. In this case, these candidates have no attachment, no expectation towards the result. They do these things as duty only. Therefore, there is no question of being affected by attachment and anger while doing nitya karma and naimittika karma. The type 3 person said, well, I am saying the same thing. Those who are not inclined towards moksha must continue doing the karmas. And immediately type 4 opposed, saying, well, even those who are interested in moksha should not give up the karmas. Now let's see the difference between type 2 and type 4, because they sound pretty much close. Even type 2 said one must follow all the karmas. The next point in type 2 is one must do these things because it's mentioned in the Shastra. Do as one's duty. Whereas in type 4, all the karmas are means. for one's spiritual progress towards moksha. Therefore, one must do. And the next point in type 2, the philosopher of type 2 did not discuss the details whether what's mentioned in the Vedas are faulty or not, whereas type 4 explicitly mentioned that the Shastras are faultless. So that covers the 4 types of views from 4 types of scholars. Type 1, give up just the kamya karma because it is result oriented, whereas one can continue doing nitya karma and naimittika karma. Type 2 said one must do all the 3 karmas but renounce the result of these karmas as one does for the kamya karma. In type 3 we saw 2 subcategories. One is Sankhya, another one is Shankaras. Both hold on to the same idea that one should give up all the karmas. Sankhya said it has ahimsa, it has killing. Therefore, one should not do the kamya karmas. Also, one should not do nitya karma, naimittika karma, because that leads one into attachment and anger. Whereas Shankara said that is not the reason. Vedas are important, one must follow the Vedas, but the rituals that's mentioned in the Vedas develops the performer a Veda Darshanam, meaning seeing differences between many things. Whereas as per Shankara, the truth is only one. One must obtain yajña-dāna. By performing these rituals, one will not obtain yajña-dāna, rather Veda Darshanam is going to be the result, which is not good for one's moksha. And lastly, type 4 said, do all the 3 karmas. Why? Because they are faultless. What is mentioned in the Vedas are not himsa, they are ahimsa. That covers the study of 4 types of scholars, their viewpoint. In the next sloka, sloka 4, Krishna is going to place his matam, philosophy, as the conclusion of the scriptures. Tyājyaṁ doṣa-vad karma prāhur manīṣiṇaḥ yajña-dāna-tapaḥ-karma tyājyaṁ iti cāpare. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Namaste. Hare Krishna.